Cops are here.
How'd you fix it?
Sound like a truck.
It is a truck engine.
I know.
What do you think, Nick?
Good.
So excited.
Good? We rolling.
Oh yeah.
Check out my new daily. Even traded for my truck. I get like 60 plus MPG on this Hawk. Just kidding. Another maintenance video. Like and subscribe. Another maintenance video on this truck that I didn't complete in the last video. Got more fluids. So I've spent total of about $500 on maintenance on this truck. Of course, that's just parts and not including labor because I do everything myself. But here I have 12 quarts of transmission fluid, transmission filter or screen. There's a part number for it if you need it. It's a 2012 F150 with a 5.0. I've got 4 quarts of rear axle fluid. I got 4 quarts of those, and also I got 4 more quarts of transmission fluid, which will be going into the transfer case. I just want to get all the fluids replaced on this truck because I don't know what's been done to it. Before me, I bought it. It had 141,000 miles on it. It was wrecked in this side here in the wheel, and this whole side was basically repainted. But it's been a good truck. I've put almost 10,000 miles on it. Didn't do any maintenance, but I started fixing some leaks here and there. And in the last video, I replaced the oil pan gasket and replaced the oil filter, things like that. Also, my 4x4 doesn't work, so I think it's this actuator. I think the actuator is sticking or something because this whole assembly was replaced from a used truck. So I don't trust it. So I'm gonna throw a new actuator on there. So today's goal is to replace some fluids and possibly fix the 4x4 because sometimes I need 4x4. You know, what's the point of having a truck if it doesn't have 4x4? Am I right? So I'm gonna lift it up now, and we're gonna start with the transfer case and work our way back. One more thing I want to do eventually is upgrade these headlights. I can't see anything at night. It just basically like might as well just hold a candle in front of you. But it seems that this truck is really healthy for the mileage, and my wife upset me a little bit because she drove it the other day. I asked her to bring it home from work, and she drove it and she's like, wow, your truck is slow. So now I'm thinking to put a supercharger on it, and I'm gonna contact Whipple and see if I can get a supercharger for a 2012 5.0. It's probably, you know, a long shot, but I'm gonna give it a try because might as well. Why not? I want everything Whipple supercharged or Whipple upgraded in our family. So stay tuned for that. Possibly we'll be Whippling this 2012 F150 with a 5.0 with 150,000 miles on it. Stay tuned. So let's take a look. There's a slight leak coming from the, looks like from the transmission oil pan, I guess. And which is nice because we're about to reseal it. Now, these, is there an oil leak? It better be old. That better be an old leak. But anyways, so we're about to reseal this oil pan regardless, so it's gonna fix the leak. Now at Ford they told me that there's no gasket for this oil pan, but it looks like there is. I see a gasket on there. But either way, I guess we're gonna RTV it, and this thing is super hot right now, so Ford decided not to put a drain plug on this oil pan for the transmission. So basically just unbolt all the bolts and it'll pour right onto this crossover exhaust. And it's hot right now, so we're gonna skip that and do the transfer case. So there's your drain, there's your fill. I always recommend to open the fill first because number one, you let air in there when you're draining. Number two, you want to make sure you can loosen the fill before you drain it, because if you drain it and you can't open the fill, you're pretty much game over for you. So you gotta remove the shield real quick and remove those both plugs, and we'll go from there. Is that leaking too? Man, everything is starting to leak. Nah, that's not too bad. So all you need is a 3/8 ratchet. It fits right in there, and comes out pretty easy. So that's the fill plug. Yep. Oh yeah, by the way, shout out to Asheville Ford. That's where I get all my parts. If you're in the area, go to Asheville Ford and see Ricky or James or any other guys in the parts department. They'll give you exactly what you need and not waste your time like some of the other dealers I know. I'm not gonna mention any names, but seems dry. Yeah, so go check out Asheville Ford. Alright, I guess it's time to get the drain. So I always like to see how much fluid comes out. So I've got this drain pan up here. Let me try again. I've got this drain pan up here empty. That way I can see how much actually came out. Oh yeah, that's never been replaced, and it's also super low. I think they said it holds about 4 quarts or a little bit less. That looked like a quart came out, if that. Probably not even that. Sorry, transfer case. So guess who forgot to buy a pump again. But I found this thing, and I think it's gonna help me here. So we just fill this until it starts pouring out. That's easy. And it's just transmission fluid, which is red in color, but we saw what came out. Came out like diesel oil, and barely anything came out. But I'm gonna go ahead and measure how much fluid actually came out. Okay, so it actually holds about 1.5 quarts, maybe a little bit more, maybe 1.6, 1.7, which is nice. It started overfilling. So all right, let's put the plug in, the fill plug, and then I'm gonna go ahead and measure how much oil actually came out of there. All right, so the fill plug is back in, and I just measured how much oil came out of the transfer case, and there was only 1 quart of oil. So I was at least 1/2 quart low. That's not horrible, but it's not good either. So I'm glad I'm changing this, and I recommend you at least check it or change it. It's not much. 2 of these is not gonna break your bank, but it's gonna save you money by changing fluid. Fluid is always cheaper than a transfer case or a transmission or an engine, so change your fluid. So if you look on the side of the transmission, on your passenger side, you will see this bolt here, and what that is it should be a dipstick, and I don't know if it's 3/4 or a 19mm. I use a 3/4 wrench to get it out. This exhaust is still super hot, and a bunch of oil just sprayed out. So you would want to check that while it's running. I just remember that. Yep. So let's drain this oil first, or I mean remove the oil pan, and then that oil looks pretty dark. Look at that. It's supposed to be red. So same thing as with the transfer case, I do want to see how much fluid actually comes out of the transmission. It seems to be pretty full, because when I removed that dipstick thing, it sprayed oil. The vehicle's not running yet, obviously, but it tells me that the oil should be pretty good. But I still want to catch as much as I can in this empty bin and see how much oil actually comes out. So I'm going to start removing all the bolts around, which are 8mm I believe, and just take the oil pan down. There should be a magnet in there. We'll take a look at that and replace the filter or a screen and reassemble it back, fill it with fluids, and we should be good to go. And if you're wondering if there was something wrong with my transmission or shifting, no, I had no issues. Transmission was shifting smooth, and I do tow a lot. I just like to prevent things from breaking, so that's why I change fluids. So there's the oil or transmission screen or filter, whichever way you like to call it. The fluid does look pretty dark, but I don't see anything crazy in the oil pan. I don't see any metal. There's a, I would say, normal amount of metal stuck to the magnet, because you'll always have that, but it's just super fine. So you'll see this in any car, especially with higher mileage. So it did have a gasket on here, so I'm assuming it's never been replaced because Ford does not offer a gasket. So I guess this was the original gasket that came from the factory. So we're not going to reuse it because obviously it was leaking a little bit. I'm going to clean this pan up and with brake cleaner, and actually put RTV all the way around. Put a nice layer of RTV, and we're gonna bolt it back up, fill it with fluids, and we'll be good to go with the transmission. We'll move on to the rear diff. Okay, so the oil, the transmission screen is in, the new one, and I cleaned up the pan. It cleaned up really nice. The magnet's back on, and I've got RTV all the way around the unit, so it's ready to go back in. I'm ready for somebody in the comments to be like, oh, he's doing it all wrong, or he doesn't torque his bolts. Yeah, well, I do this daily, so I know what I'm doing. Go back to playing video games. So I'm gonna put this pan back on and then start filling the fluid. So the transmission pan is back on. All the bolts are tight all the way around. I did clean up a little bit because obviously it got all over the exhaust. The transmission fluid is just a pain to drain if you don't have a plug. And some of these I believe do have a plug. Mine doesn't, because my plan was to take the pan, or drain the fluid, take the pan down, replace the filter, fill it, run the truck for a few minutes, and then drain it again from the plug. But since I don't have a plug, I'm not gonna do any of that. I'm just gonna fill to the level, and I'll be okay, because the biggest thing I wanted to do was replace the screen or the filter in there, and that's done. So I'm not too worried about the fluid. It'll mix and it'll be, 50% new. Not worried about that. If I do have problems in the future, I may just do a flush the right way. But I wanted to replace the filter because, like I said, I didn't have any transmission problems. I did see a slight leak over here, and I wanted to get this done. That's out of the way. So I'm gonna let the RTV dry on this thing and move on to the rear diff, drain that, seal it, and then go get some lunch. So we just have a bunch of 13mm bolts all the way around. Just gotta remember the 3 studs here, because the wiring clips onto there, that I just removed. So, actually, scratch that. I gotta remove the fill plug first to make sure I can actually fill it. Okay, so the fill plug came out very easily, and I feel like it's either been topped off before or replaced. So I guess we'll find out. Let's see what the fluid looks like. Oh, that's not bad looking. Looks like it's probably been replaced not long ago. Watch, I say that and I remove this and a bunch of metal falls out. That'd be sick. Yeah, that looks good. That's some nice fluid. So, shout out to the previous owner for replacing the rear diff fluid. Maybe this whole axle's new, who knows. Yeah, it's looking good. Smells funny, but that's just the diff fluid. It stinks. It's just how it is. Alright, so I'm gonna clean up the RTV and probably spray some brake cleaner in here. Alright, everything's been cleaned up, and the diff cover can go back on. It looks good in there, no metal. Here we go. Oh yeah. Be nice if I grabbed the bolts before I did this, but it is what it is. So while I'm waiting for the RTV to dry a little bit on the rear diff and on the transmission pan, I'm gonna run and get some lunch. Just not sure what I should take because the truck is still on the lift. Moped doesn't run. Is Vega's probably not gonna make it. Hasn't run in 3 months. Let's see, what should I take? Oh, I'll just take the VicZilla. Let's go. Take it on the drive to get some lunch. Can't wait till I get the daily this. Should be in the next few weeks, I think. I'll be able to just drive it every day. First time ever on the road, boys. Dang, this thing is loud. Going 45, 2,000 RPMs. Man, it's driving good. First time up on the road, loud in a year and a half or so with a different engine. Rolling. Oil pressure looking good, temperature's looking good, airbag light is on because we don't need it. I'm gonna get some lunch here. Might swing by the house, never know. Got some groceries in this grocery gator. 7.3 VicZilla swapped, Crown Vic, let's go. Gonna drop them by the house. First time going home in a Crown Vic in a year and a half. It's insane. Time flies. And it's not like I was working on it full time, but still feels good. Gotta fill the AC. That way I can have AC. Right now it's still, I don't have the belt on the compressor and I gotta fill the AC, and the airbag light is on because the clock spring broke. That was my mistake. I already have that. So I'm gonna have no lights on the dash. It's gonna start with the key. Everything is gonna work. Look, turn signals, everything's gonna work. All because it's still running on the stock PCM and the body control module. Everything is still hooked up just like it should be. So just gotta keep an eye on the oil pressure and temperature, but this thing is super loud. I'm barely gassing it, and dang, this thing's got some power. I feel it already. And once I install that sensor and the gauge so we can read air fuel ratio, we're gonna be adding power. I already feel the power, I just don't want to gas it because it's so loud. Cops are here.
How'd you fix
Sound like a truck.
It is a truck engine.
I know.
What do you think, Nick?
Good.
So excited.
Good? We rolling.
Oh yeah.
More test driving. I just took the boys out for first drive, and I'm pretty sure they approve. It's so loud. That's like quarter throttle. It's loud. Now it's time to get back to work. Gotta finish up that F150 so I can drive that home. I gotta fill up AC. It's like 98 degrees outside. It's so hot in here. I gotta fix the AC, but other than that, man, this thing runs and drives great. Shifting flawless. Love it. I love it. All right, so we're ready to put the rear diff fluid in. Apparently it takes almost 4 quarts, so. Well, looks like it's full. Just a little bit over 3 quarts is all that went in. I did go with the full, with 75W40 full synthetic. So we'll see how that goes. But as you can see, it's a clear fluid, and what came out of there was a darker fluid, which I'm pretty sure was replaced at some point. So I'm gonna let it level out and then put the drain plug back in, which I cleaned up. It's got a magnet on it. Cleaned it up, so I'm gonna put that in and we're gonna move on to filling the transmission. Okay, rear diff is all put together and filled. A little bit over 3 quarts. This shield is back on, protecting the transfer case. We filled that up with the transmission fluid. So now all that's left is to fill the transmission itself. And what I did was, since I don't have a pump here, I ran a hose right into the dipstick hole. I ran it all the way up there, and I'm gonna lower the truck, and I'm just gonna fill it with the funnel. I'm gonna use this funnel here, and I'm gonna put about 3 quarts in and then start it up, and then keep adding as I go. So let's do it. Okay, so the transmission's been filled. It took exactly 7 quarts to fill up, even though I only drained 6. So it was about a quart low, maybe a little bit less or more here and there, because it did have a slight leak, which is okay. So a quart low is not gonna hurt the transmission. But right now it's at the perfect level, and I've got the plug back in there, and all of this I gotta still wipe down because it's all over the exhaust. It's gonna smoke for a minute. But how I check the level is I got it started, I warmed it up, and I shifted to every gear, and then checked the dipstick through here, and then put it back. So last thing I want to do, well, there's 2 things I want to do, but more importantly I want to fix the 4x4. And what I did was, when the truck was low but the wheels were off the ground, I turned the 4x4 on. It engages 4x4, there's no codes, so everything is working properly. But this here, well, of course it's not gonna, there it is. So it makes this noise when I turn 4x4 on and the wheels actually start spinning. So this actuator does not hold vacuum or fail, because I got this whole assembly used from a junkyard. And I'm not saying I bought a bad one, it just possibly was laying out in the dirt or something. I don't know. It worked for a long time and then it didn't. So here's a new actuator here. Got a vacuum pump hooked up to it, and I was just messing with it, and basically when I pump it, it sucks it in, and it's supposed to hold, and it is holding. It's a new one, it's holding. So I want to hook this up to the truck on the passenger front and see if it will hold. I'm thinking it's not, because something's wrong with it, so let's find out. Okay, so I'm on the front passenger side. I disconnected the vacuum hose from the actuator and connected the vacuum pump. So let's see if it will hold vacuum. And it is slowly dropping. So there's our problem. That is why the 4x4 does not work. Okay, so we have a new actuator. Let's replace it real quick. So it's actually not too bad to replace the actuator. All I had to do was take the upper control arm ball joint out, and then you know, disconnect a few lines to give it some slack so I could push this way, and then the axle comes out. There's plenty of room. The axle and everything looks good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean that up, put some fresh grease on there, and replace this actuator. I think the actuator is actually already pre-greased, and this one seems like it's stuck, so I'm about to remove it. We're gonna try to vacuum it on the bench. Okay, so here's the actuator I just pulled out from the front passenger side of my truck. It's rough looking, so look at the travel on the new one. I'm pressing it in, it goes up and it goes up and down. It's like spring loaded, right? This one, it's basically bottomed out. It does not have any spring, right? So it failed. And also I got the vacuum pump hooked up to it. We pump it up and it's not holding vacuum. So I believe if I put the new actuator on, I'm gonna have 4x4 again, because everything else works. I have no codes, so I think this was just a mechanical fail. and for some reason it wouldn't throw a code, even though it wasn't holding vacuum. You would think there would be some kind of code, but maybe I just didn't have it engaged long enough to throw a code. Long story short, this is trash. This is going in right now, a brand new one. I should have bought 2 of them. I would have changed both of them, but I did vacuum this side and it's still holding pressure, so I'm okay. I'll just replace this one and we're gonna send it off road. So the actuator, everything was put back together, tires rotated. One last thing I want to do today is actually look at that brand new actuator. Let's go. One last thing I want to do is, previous owner cut out the resonator and just welded a bunch of pipes together, and then more pipes, and then more pipes, and then some kind of muffler, and then more pipes, you know. So I thought we had a stock exhaust from a 2011 laying around, but turns out this is not a stock exhaust. This is actually a Flowmaster, but it is pretty much brand new. It's been sitting here for like 10 years. So I'm gonna put this on and see how it sounds. I mean, because what I have now is so annoying, especially when I'm towing. It's just like this annoying sound, but there's almost a hole in here. What is that? There's some custom exhaust work here. Like, look at this. Then it goes down from like a 2.5 to a 2, then back to a 2.5 to a 3 or something. Then there's just a, yeah, no comments on this. So I'm gonna slap that on and see what it sounds like. Alright, so I officially have 4x4 again, and all the fluids have been replaced. Tires rotated. Everything's been done. So this truck should be good for the next couple 100,000 miles, besides like motor oil changes. But check out this exhaust system that the previous owner had going on. So it goes from that to that to that to something like that. Then there's a random hanger, then it goes to that, some random muffler, I don't know, probably some kind of universal or something, another one of those, and the tip was welded on and it was rusting. So this Flowmaster, it looks pretty good. I'm about to start it up and give it a couple revs. So it's still kind of loud, but I think it's better than what that was, because this Flowmaster muffler is a little bit bigger and it actually muffles the sound. So I'm gonna run that because this wasn't working at all. I'm gonna scrap that. If anybody wants a custom built exhaust, it's all yours, come get it. But it's gonna be it for this video. I'm gonna test the 4x4 here in a minute. Like and subscribe. Until next time, later. All right, moment of truth. If I can make this up this hill right here, my 4x4 works. This is my test course. I'm in 2-wheel drive. Okay, spinning out. 4x4. 4x4 engaged. All right, so 4x4 works. Just made it up this hill here. Couldn't do it before in two-wheel drive, now I can. Until next time, later.